Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Welcome to episode number 5 of the Spun Today podcast. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. It's really appreciated. I hope you guys enjoyed the last couple of episodes. I've been doing the audiobook versions of some short stories that I wrote that can be found on my website, spuntoday.com, under the short stories tab, in case any of you non-existent new listeners want to take a look and check those stories out. I like the way those are going, actually. I'm going to continue doing them. Definitely want feedback from you guys. I've gotten some, and it's definitely appreciated. It's something that will help improve the podcast, and it's in line with my goal of what this podcast is for, which is ultimately to make me a better writer. And just podcasting in general is something that I really enjoy. I love listening to it, and I'm having a great time actually doing one and putting this stuff out there. So again, for you half a dozen listeners out there, thanks again. And if you guys do happen to like what you hear and enjoy the podcast, please share it with your friends, family. On the best thing that you guys can do is go on iTunes and or Stitcher and rate the podcast, and you can rate it, put a few comments there. That helps exposure on iTunes and Stitcher, and it's completely free, obviously, to do something like that. To give a rating, and helps increase the exposure pretty much, which will spread out to more people and ultimately help this thing grow into something more credible. Now, the next story in line for the audiobook podcast, because I'm gonna do them in order of how I wrote them. The first one was Bully. And that's the first one that I wrote, the first one that I did an audiobook on. The second one was Insight. That's the second short story that I wrote, and second one that I did an audiobook on. And the next short story that I wrote that's on the website is Chopper City. And I am still working on the audiobook for that. I got some feedback from my girlfriend, actually, who told me that she enjoyed the sound effects, which I thought were pretty cool too, from the first audiobook that I did, Bully. And there was less of it with Insight, partly because I just wanted to do it a little differently and leave it out, but also because there weren't too many places where sound effects would have worked, I felt. But then, after getting that feedback and seeing that that's something that is well received, I, went back and reread the story to look for places, and there's definitely not a bunch, but a few more places where I could have inserted some sound effects to help enhance the whole listening experience for that exhilarating 10 minutes of your lives, for anyone that did check that out. So for the next one, Chopper City, if you guys have read the story, you'll know that there's definitely lots of places where sound effects can and will be going into that story and into the audiobook version of it. But alas, it is not ready yet. But in keeping with the timeline or schedule rather of this podcast, I wanted to make sure that I am still releasing a podcast every 2 weeks on Thursday, and any Thursdays in between will be just bonus episodes. But that is the plan right now, and I'll let you guys know if that changes down the line. I'm pretty anal with shit like that when it comes to schedules and timing of things and stuff like that, so I want to make sure I stick to that. So you have definitely a podcast episode Can't guarantee you the length of it or anything like that, but every other Thursday. And again, any Thursdays in between would be bonus episodes. So I'm obviously not doing the audiobook podcast on this episode number 5, but what I am going to do is explore some of the free writing on the website. I had the idea actually today when I was on taking the train home from work, and I knew the Chopper City audiobook wasn't going to be ready on time for today's release, so I came up with this, which is going over some of the free writing that's under that's on my website on spuntoday.com under the free writing section, which is, as I've told you guys before, actually my favorite form of writing. I find it therapeutic and cathartic and just insightful. It helps me at least, think things through, get shit off my chest, work out ideas that I have in my head, and stuff like that. I'm a big encourager of it, so it's something I've told a few people in the past that they should definitely try it. If you guys haven't and want to, I definitely encourage it. Just literally sit down with a pen and paper, or if you want to do it electronically, I guess, open up a Word document or whatever and just start typing. You literally just think of like freestyle, like rapping, like actual freestyle rapping, not spitting writtens or anything like that, but just straight off the top of your head, off the dome type of freestyling, but in written form. You can approach it in the sense of, well, you can approach it, however the fuck you want, but the way I approach it is in two ways. One of two ways. I either, approach it in that there's something specific that I want to write about, a certain problem, a certain thought, a certain idea that I have in my head, and I just want to get it out. So I just sit down, think about that idea, and write towards that. And just write whatever comes to mind. Just continue writing and writing and writing and writing, whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about format and paragraphs and indenting and like shit like that. Just like literally just straight writing. And then there's another way that I approach it, or that I free write rather, which is just having, approaching it like as a blank slate, like not having anything in mind to speak about specifically. Just literally sit down and just begin to write. Even if you start off by saying, I don't know what's right, I don't know what's right, I don't know what to write. Do that for a few lines, and then stuff will start pouring out. You should try it, even as an experiment or something like that. It's pretty cool. It's interesting. Now, the ones that I'm going to go over today are the former. It's quotes or ideas or from a book or a song that resonated with me and just inspired me to write about it or to reflect on that, and then I free wrote based off that inspiration. So I thought it might be interesting to read that off the site, and then I guess just reflect on my reflections at that time, because the ones posted on the website now, they're like several months old, and I've read some of them over like since, but it's not something I revisit too much. So it'll be interesting to at least for myself, just to see where my head was at that point in time when I wrote these things. It's not eons ago or anything like that. It's just a couple months ago, but I thought that might be a pretty cool exercise. Oh, while I was on my way home, actually, also I was listening to a podcast, as I usually am, and this one was really good. You guys should check it out. It was on Duncan Trussell's podcast, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, and he had Aubrey Marcus on. And these guys, when I've heard them on podcasts before, either like on Rogan's podcast all together or separately, and Aubrey Duncan's been on Aubrey's podcast, which is The Warrior Poet, and I think Aubrey's been on Duncan's before as well. But when they're two cool dudes, right? But when they get together, I feel like bring out in each other the versions of themselves that resonate the most with me, that I like listening to the most. And they always have like trippy conversations. For example, like Aubrey was speaking about his most recent ayahuasca experience, and for those of you that don't know what ayahuasca is, I mean, I barely do. I just know what I've heard from different podcasts and a few things that I've Googled. It's a psychedelic that's like one of the most powerful or the most powerful like psychedelic that there is, and it's made from shamans make it like through this ritualistic practice of a leaf and a vine, and it's like a specific leaf and a specific vine out of like thousands and thousands different plants that are in the Amazon, and they found the only two that join together in this like symbiotic way to be able to brew it in a tea that takes hours of preparation to make, and it's supposed to be this brew that is, at least by the accounts that I've heard from people like Aubrey Marcus or Cara Santa Maria, an extremely potent and powerful psychedelic that is really transformative and strongly impacts most of the people that drink it or that partake in the ritual. And the podcast is pretty much speaking about that, and it's trippy in how they speak about, or Aubrey speaks about his experience with it, and how it's like tuning into the frequencies of like different dimensions and working shit out within himself and about life and existence and stuff like that. And then Duncan draws parallels throughout the whole podcast, because he hasn't done ayahuasca, but he's really into ancient scriptures and texts, different religions, like texts like the Bhagavad Gita and Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity and Gnostic rituals, and he draws parallels from Aubrey's like first-hand experiences with the visions and insights that he gained through his ayahuasca experience, and versus Duncan's second-hand readings and teachings from these like sacred ancient texts. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty like trippy to listen to. You guys should check it out. It's episode that was just recently released on the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. On the date of it is October 28th, the release date. It could be found on iTunes, and I'm sure wherever else you guys listen to podcasts. And I just find like shit like that fascinating. And if you do too, definitely go check that one out. Also, before I get into the whole free writing thing, what else happened this week? The midterm elections were this week. On election day was Tuesday, November 4th. Today's November 6th. And Republicans officially have control of Congress, both the House and the Senate. They had the control of the House before, and the Senate was under Democratic control. And now it's the other way around. So Democrats have control of the White House, obviously, with Obama, and Republicans came through strong, taking over the Senate. What that means, who the fuck knows? We'll see, right? I mean, the Congress in general has like the lowest approval rating. I don't know if like ever, but I know it's like single to very low double digits, like in the teens, or fucking 9% approval rating, or something like that. Obama's approval rating is shit too. I think everybody's just so disillusioned with the whole thing that everybody's just like, fuck this and letting it be, which definitely isn't a good thing. It's not a proactive. So now the numbers as they are now, roughly, because there's like one or two like runoff elections that are taking place or that need to take place, which my understanding of a runoff election is if within a district there is a race where, you know, two of the people running, neither one gets more than 50% of the vote or 51% of the vote. Let's say, you know, one gets 30, another one gets, you know, 32, 33, and then, you know, somebody else is a spoiler technically against the rest of the votes. Those two people that had the highest percentages, the 30 and 32, they would have to have what's called a runoff election, which means there's another special election, in essence, of just them two. And then, you know, like winner take all in that one. So there's like one or two of those going on still. And, but those aside, the numbers right now, if I'm not mistaken, or from what I most recently read, is Republicans out of the 435 representatives have or hold 246 seats. And out of the 100 senators, they roughly hold 52 seats. So now the way it was before this election, with Republicans having control of the House, Democrats of the Senate, and the executive branch, obviously, this Congress has passed, or hasn't passed, depending on how you look at it, the least fewest bills of any other Congress since 1973. That's since 1973. That's over 4 decades ago, over 40 years ago. What these fucks are elected to do, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination an expert on any of this shit, but this is just, you know, my understanding of it. What they're elected to do is to make things work at a very simple, oversimplified level. They're supposed to make things work, and the way they make things work is by passing laws, blocking laws, and generally moving things in a direction, not this standstill gridlock bullshit that's been going on for the past like 6 plus years, and it's fucking disgusting. It's ridiculous. It's frustrating. No wonder why people feel so like disillusioned and disconnected with the whole process in general. Now, there's blame to go around to everyone, obviously. But regardless of which direction you're pointing the finger in or at, it's still an abysmal record to have. Now, the way that this came to be or was possible or happened is basically Obama proposes something and or the Senate proposes something, it's blocked by the House, and vice versa. The House proposes something, it's blocked by the Senate and or Obama. Well, actually, no, by the Senate, because Obama has, I think he's only used his veto power like twice in the past 6 years, like one of the lowest. uses of that power by a president. But it sounds like that's about to change. Now, a possible silver lining in an article that I read today, actually, is that now with the Republicans in control of the House and the Senate, things might have a chance to begin to get done. Not because Republicans are in control of Congress now, or because the White House is more willing to play ball, but because Obama now, in his final 2 years of his presidency, is going to be more focused on his legacy than anything else. And Republicans will be more willing to negotiate and make things happen because it's in their best interest to get their approval ratings up, just for like Republicans in general to have a shot at winning the White House in the 2016 election. So that, I guess, is a positive or a possible silver lining to this whole fucking mess. But whatever, I guess we'll see when it happens. Believe it when and if it happens, right? My hat definitely goes off to groups like the Young Turks or Wolfpack.com, started by Cenk Unger of the Young Turks, that are proactively going at the root of the problem, or what most feel is the root of the issue, which is getting money out of politics and aggressively and proactively. That's wolf-pack.com or .org, I think. If you guys want to check that out and see what that whole movement is about. I know Lawrence Lessig, professor and author of Republic Lost, which is an awesome book about the same thing, money and politics being like the root of this issue that we're having. I know he has his own version of what Wolfpack is doing, but slightly different. I don't know the name of his organization or his group though, but I'm sure you can find it. Just Google his name, Lawrence Lessig, Lesig or SSIG. Definitely my hat goes out to guys like that and organizations like that are proactively fighting the fight, while the rest of us lazy fucks just sit around and complain about it. Something we can't do though is do things like this. Do not to sound like a self-righteous asshole, but do things that you enjoy doing, that you love, that you have a passion for, that you want to do. Podcasting, writing, singing, dancing, sports, becoming the director of the company you work for, designing, whatever the fuck it is you're into, being an entrepreneur. Go for it, do it, fight for it, try it, at the very least try it. That's where we come in, that's where our contribution comes in. Flipping this thing around. Not waiting for the quote-unquote them to get their acts together and fix things for us. Just go out there and get it, keep it pushing, like Cat Williams says. Day in and day out, grind it out, and hopefully we'll be better off at the other end of this thing. Alrighty, now let's get to the free writing, my favorite. So, for any of you that might want to follow along and aren't just listening to the audio of this, you can go to my website, spuntoday.com. That's SPUN today.com. And click on the third tab from the left up on top. It's called Free Writing. I'm doing that right now. And first thing, well, depending on when you listen to this thing, because the newest posts are on the top. The first one I see now is The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield. It's a quote from that book. Awesome, dope book. You guys, each and every one of you listening to this should read that. Amazing, inspirational read. Then under that, which I posted on October 26th, 2014, it has the date in like a light gray color. I'm gonna start off with this post actually. I kind of like it. It is from Life of Pi, the movie. The screenplay was written by David Maggie. And I have an excerpt from the movie, which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen that movie, it's a pretty good movie. It was, obviously it was like up for like movie of the year. I don't know if it won. I don't think it did. But it was up for it. And, it had, acclaim in that, sense, I guess. But I got mixed reviews from just like speaking with people about it. I got mixed reviews on it. People that are like, the homo is just one dude and he's on the raft with the fucking tiger. It's not realistic, whatever, blah blah blah, like stuff like that. And I don't know. To me, it's like one, you're watching a movie, which generally you don't do in search of realism. It's, to me at least, it's kind of like an escape from your life, and it's also something that lends to real life. And like they say, like art imitates reality and vice versa. It's you can get things from different movies, different mediums that you can then translate and interpret and apply to your own life, and whether it's something that's inspirational or insightful or whatever it may be. So like I don't know, I'm not with those type of comments, I guess. But to me, it was a really good movie, even on that like topical first layer. It was kind of entertaining to watch. But obviously, to me at least, and which you guys will see from just like this little excerpt of it, had much deeper meanings. And most things do, right? Most things have deeper meanings, or different things, different movies, or whatever medium you want to plug in there, have certain meanings to one person, and the same exact thing will have a completely different meaning to someone else. And I mean, that's the beauty of interpretation. But if you, for example, are the type of person that thought or thinks that, I don't know, Castaway was a movie, about some guy whose plane crashed and who had a relationship with his volleyball, then just give up. Go give up on life. Go throw yourself off a bridge or something like that. Look deeper than that. Look past the topical bullshit and find things that you can relate to and or implement into your life. All right, so I'm gonna start with this. Life of Pi. David Maggie wrote the screenplay. So this is a scene that, if you guys haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, this is towards the end of the movie. And the writer that is interviewing the adult Pi Patel, Pi being the guy that went through the whole ordeal with the shipwreck and being on a raft, lost at sea for a bunch of days with a tiger. There's the scene at the end. Well, it starts off and ends in the same scene basically. And this writer is interviewing Pi, the adult Pi, throughout the movie, and he's like retelling his story of what happened with the whole shipwreck and being lost at sea. But this little excerpt is towards the end of the movie. The writer says, "So, the stories. Both the zebra and the sailor broke their leg, and the hyena killed the zebra and the orangutan. So, the hyena is the cook, the sailor is the zebra, your mother is the orangutan, and you're the tiger." Then Pai Patel responds, "Can I ask you something?" And the writer says, "Of course." Pai Patel then says, "I've told you two stories about what happened out in the ocean. Neither explains what caused the sinking of the ship, and no one can prove which story is true and which is not. In both stories, the ship sinks, my family dies, and I suffer. The writer says, true. Then Pi says, so which story do you prefer? Then the writer says, the one with the tiger. That's the better story. Then Pi says, thank you. And so it goes with God. Now that obviously resonated with me then because it inspired me to free write what I'm about to read, and just rereading it again. Just that excerpt from the movie impacts me, all over again. But let's see what I wrote. So then in blue, if you're looking at the website, my free writing is in blue. I wrote in response, I guess you could say, to that excerpt. The writer is anticipating to hear a story that, quote-unquote, makes him believe in God. The religious undertone is apparent throughout the film. Pi is fascinated with religion from an early age and is introduced to it via Hinduism and its millions of gods. Later, he is introduced to Jesus Christ and Christianity, followed then by the Muslim religion of Islam and Allah. He even mentions to the writer that he teaches a course on Judaism at the university. He owns this openness by stating, why not? Faith is a house with many rooms. My takeaway from this movie is not that the tiger, Richard Parker, really was God. Really God. I gotta correct that. Not that the tiger, Richard Parker, really was God, or that Pi himself was God, or that God necessarily created the scenarios necessary for Pi to get through being cast away at sea. But that the story, either, is God. The story that you believe in is God. In the same way that religion, belief, faith, spirituality, and what you choose to follow in life is God. God is art, a subjective concept. The vessel in which you choose to believe and follow is relevant in that it's what works for you, but essentially it's only relevant in that respect. The end goal, God, is the same. The core truth, God, is a common one. Much like the facts of the matter are unalterable with either of the two stories, an example, the shipwreck, his family dying, and his suffering. Similarly, God is an unalterable truth. Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, etc. are all versions of the same truth, created, accepted, and passed along respectively by those that connect with them. It's a preference thing. I do what works for me, you do what works for you. Either way, it goes with God. And I wrote that on Sunday, September 8th, 2013 at 7:04 p.m. to be exact. So this one was, what are we in, November? That was over a year ago. Damn, I gotta post some of my newer shit, right? But yeah, that's my take on this particular scene from that movie. You guys let me know what you think. You can comment actually right on, if you click on like the title where it says Life of Pi, David Maggie screenplay in parentheses. If you guys click on that, it'll take you to the page where just that post is, and you can write comments on there, which can be seen by anyone, obviously. And or you always have the option to just email me. You can go through my the contact page, fill out that little form, which is pretty much your name, your email address, and your email. Or you just email me directly at spuntoday@gmail.com and tell me what you think. Watch the movie again if you haven't, or if you haven't in a while and you want to reflect on it again. refresh your memory, rather, with that scene, and tell me what you guys think. I'll be interested to get that feedback. I guess another angle, for that same for that again, like I said before, art or movies or songs or quotes or whatever, different people could read the exact same thing and get something, totally different, hundreds and thousands of different types of reactions, to the same exact thing. Just like another one that just came to mind now, just from rereading, the quotes, the dialogue, and what I free wrote, is that I guess that is how it is with religions, right? Like all those, the stories in the Bible and other sacred texts. It kind of has like that same concept of, this is a story which is not to be taken literally, like unfortunately some fanaticals do. But within this story, kind of like a legend or a folklore or something like that you would tell like little kids to like teach them something, like some like morality tale or something like that. That's what these stories are in these texts. Again, not to be taken literally, but that have these like little jewels of wisdom and guidance within them that are purposefully dressed up in these digestible formats to appeal to the masses. Because that way you get your point across with less resistance, I guess, right? It's interesting. I never really thought of it like that. I looked at it that way. But yeah, that's that piece. And I'll do one more actually, which is the one, again, if you're on the website, it's right above that post, also posted up on October 26, 2014. It's from The War of Art, book by Stephen Pressfield. And the quote is, "The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every day." Then I free wrote, "Necessity. What greater motivator? Does one exist? For a warrior, the need to stay alive for his family, yourself, for the very cause you're fighting for friends, for future, for passion, for hope. An artist feels the need to create for all of the same reasons. Day in and day out, a true artist continues to work on perfecting his or her craft. You'll be faced with obstacles, some bigger and more serious than others. The warrior's necessity comes from the lack of it, equaling death, nothingness, it being over. Similarly, an artist with the same lack of necessity does not create. His or her art is non-existent. It's nothingness. It's over. Force the necessity in and become a warrior of and by your art." And I wrote that on Wednesday, November 20th, 2013. That's approaching a year already also. And that was at 12:39 a.m. And that actually touches on what I was saying earlier about just going out there and doing something, pursuing something, anything that you actually want to be doing, not just, going through the motions, the day-to-day mundane tasks of, getting caught up in the monotony of life, as it happens to all of us, as it happens to me, it still happens to me. But the important thing is not to, the way I see it, not to realize that it happens and not to let it continue happening. Switch shit up, do things differently. Bob and weave out of the way of resistance. And that is it, folks. That is going to be the show for this week. For those of you that missed the audiobook, it will be back. I'll have it ready by the next release, which will be the Thursday after next. What's today, the 6th? So on November 20th, you'll have the next episode, which is going to be the audiobook version of Chopper City. Definitely by then. And not promising anything, but if I do finish it before then, I'll release it on the 13th, which is next Thursday. Again, I appreciate you guys listening. If you would like to, and if you guys can, there's a couple things that you can do to help support the podcast, which are as follows. Visit the website, first and foremost, spuntoday.com. Check out the different sections. You got the free writing, the Ode to Podcasts section, and the short story section, obviously the podcast section, and the photography section. You guys can leave comments, email me, contact me, give me feedback, tell me what you guys think of my writing, how shitty it is, things that you like from it, things that you don't like from it, and let's get a little dialogue going here. Also, what you can do is follow me on Twitter, at Spun Today on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram, like the pictures. Spun Today on Instagram as well. Follow me on Facebook also, facebook.com/Spun Today. And speaking of pictures, actually, I told you guys last time that I am also part of a site called Crated, Crated. So you guys can go to crated.com/Spun Today. And it's a different way that you guys can support the podcast by going on there. And you guys can actually purchase prints of the pictures that you guys see on my website that I've taken. Those are under the photography section. And let's see, they have prints that you can like literally purchase, like posters of the different photographs if you like any of them. They have, just to give you guys like an example of what's offered and pricing, you can get like a small print that'll be like on a poster paper of 12 inches by 16 inches for $14. They also have like 18 inches by 24 inch poster. That's $24. Then you have like a super large if you think one of my pictures are super awesome and amazing and you want to get one of those. There's a large size, which is 30 inches by 40 inches. I wouldn't even want one of these pictures that big, but, you know, if any of you would, that's much more expensive, though. It's $58. And you also have the option of purchasing, like, the prints on canvas. And, you know, they have options for framing and, like, different types of frames, black frames, white frames, wooden frames, and stuff like that. Now, there is actually an offer for anyone who is purchasing through this weekend. So if you purchase it prior to, I guess the cutoff date would be November 9th, 2014. If you go to crated.com/Spun Today, put in the coupon code Crated Ship, CRATED Ship, SHIP, you get free shipping on any and all orders. Another way to support the podcast is go back to the website, spuntoday.com, click on the contact/donate tab, and there you will find an Amazon link. You can click on that link and it'll take you directly to the Amazon website, and you can do all your shopping on Amazon like you normally do, and it will not cost you anything extra, but Amazon will kick me back a small referral fee just for driving traffic to their website. A clever way to do it also is if you don't want to, every time you want to go on Amazon, you don't want to go through my website first and, take those extra few clicks to go to Amazon, is just do it once. Go to my website, click on the Amazon banner, and then bookmark that banner, that website once you're on Amazon. Bookmark that, because in the URL, like my codes or whatever are already embedded. So anytime you go to your bookmark, like you normally would for Amazon, it will still count towards me driving traffic to the website. Also, there's a donate tab if you guys want to make a one-time or reoccurring donation via PayPal. That would obviously be awesome as well. And most importantly, which is completely free and should be quick for you guys to do, please go on iTunes and or Stitcher, as I mentioned earlier, and rate the podcast. Give me your thoughts, your feedback, which will always be greatly appreciated. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening.